My name is Belen Bonilla, and on behalf of Group 2, the article we selected to analyze for our group project is Employee Sense-Making of CSR on Microdiscourses of Corporate Social Responsibility by Catherine E. Miller, published in 2023 in Corporate Communications and International Journal. The goals of the study in this article are to better understand how organizations engage in corporate social responsibility, or CSR, by looking at how employees rationalize, perceive, and identify with their organization's CSR practices. Another goal the author describes is to offer an interpretive and dialogic approach to looking at CSR. Interpretive approach meaning how the company is describing its CSR efforts publicly on the website or in press releases, and dialogic meaning how the organization is conveying its CSR approaches internally with micro practices that are happening within the organization. So she's trying to combine those two approaches. Let's turn to the literature review. So in this class, from lectures and readings, we've learned that the criteria for evaluating a literature review includes whether it has balanced viewpoints, coherent themes and summaries, historical and recent sources, and an emphasis on primary sources. Let's take a look. With sources dating from 1995 to 2019, this literature review does include a good range of historical and recent sources. There is also an emphasis on primary sources. The literature review cites studies showing the critical role employees play in the makeup of their organizations. It cites studies that have found why scholars believe dialogic takes on CSR will be important in the future of this work. A study on how companies' CSR efforts can affect their employees, and a study showing that organizations target their employees in their CSR efforts. It also cites foundational work like Week's theory of organizational sense-making and the 7 properties of sense-making that Wick presented to kind of ground what we mean by organizational sense-making to begin with. The literature review does have a coherent theme and summary and offers different viewpoints on the definitions of CSR and the value of this study in the context of existing work in this area. It establishes that different organizations are different in their approach to CSR and offers several definitions for consideration on what CSR looks like in different contexts. It also looks at motivations for CSR, including how and why companies would be concerned with how CSR actors like nonprofits, governments, business, and society view them. And it points to other studies calling for attention to organizational sense-making in this area. The literature review does potentially overstate the value of the study by claiming there's a gap in existing research about how employees feel about their organization's CSR efforts, but then does point to another study about how employees see their company's CSR work and how that impacts and affects them. I'm going to now pass to Lin Fei to talk to us about research methods.
So this part is about the methodology, the research method. The study explored how employees understand and interrupt to cooperate social responsibility, or CSR, within their organizations. The authors proposed 2 main research questions. The first asks what employees generally understand about CSR. The second is examine how employees make sense of CSR efforts, include how CSR influences their daily work experiences and their relationship with the organization. The author argued that most CSR research focus on micro-level perspectives, such as corporate strategies and external stakeholders, while the internal employee's perspective has received less attention. To address this gap, the study adopts a micro-level approach that focuses on how employees interpret and construct meaning around the CSR. To address this research question, the study adopts a qualitative research design. The researchers conducted 42 semi-structured interviews with employees from different industries and organizational levels. Semi-structured interviews are widely used in qualitative research because they allowed participants to describe their experiences in depth while still guiding the discussion around these key themes. Participants are recurred through convenience and snowball sampling via linking, which allowed the researcher to research professionals across different organizations. For data analysis, the study used organizational discourse analysis, which threat CSR as a socially constructed through communication. The interview data were coded using Novo with the open coding and focus coding, combined with constructed on comparison method to identify pattern and things across the data. On trend of the study, it's strong argument between the research question theory and the method, since the study focuses on how employees interpret CSR. Qualitative interviews are appropriate for capturing personal experience and meaning. In addition, this course analyzes align well with the theoretical assumption that CSR is socially constructed through communication. Overall, the method supports the study's micro-level focus on employees' sense-making. Despite these strengths, there are several methodological limitations. First, sense-making is generally considered an ongoing process. However, the study relies on the one-time interviews which capture responsibilities interpretations, rather than the observing how seeking sense-making dips over time. Second, because participants come from many different organizations, the study may lack deeper contextual understanding of specific organizational environments. Further, research could address this limitation by using longitudinal studies as not graphic observation or multi-method research design.
Now let's take a closer look at the study's sampling strategy, including the sampling methods adopted, the profile of participants, as well as how this sampling design aligns with the core research goals. First, let's look at the sampling method and the specific profile of the participants. The author used a combination of convenience sampling and snowball sampling, recruiting all 42 participants through the professional networking platform LinkedIn. For some participants with time constraints or schedule conflicts, interviews were even conducted via email correspondence. This is a common and practical approach for exploratory qualitative research, as it allows researchers to quickly access an initial group of participants and then expand the sample through their referrals. Now, regarding the sample profile, the key feature here is its diversity. The 42 employees came from various industries, held positions ranging from entry level to the C-suite, and worked in organizations of different sizes. This diversity was a deliberate choice by the researcher, and as we will see, it's both a major strength and a key point of consideration for this study. Okay, let's evaluate how well this sampling strategy aligns with the study's core research goals. On the positive side, the diversity of the sample is a major strength. It directly supports the research objective of exploring how employees in different contexts make sense of CSR. By including participants from various industries, organizational levels, and company sizes, the study was able to capture a rich variety of perspectives, which is essential for understanding the micro discourses of CSR. Additionally, using non-probability sampling methods like convenience and snowball sampling is entirely appropriate for an exploratory qualitative study like this one, which aims to generate insights and theories rather than make broad statistical claims. However, there are also notable limitations to consider. First, because it's a non-probability sample, the findings cannot be generalized statistically to all employees. The results are only specific to this particular group of participants. Second, there is a potential for selection bias. Recruiting through LinkedIn might mean the sample overrepresents individuals who are more active on professional platforms or have a particular interest in CSR, which might not reflect the broader workforce. Finally, The study does not provide detailed demographic information about the participants, such as age, gender, or education level. This is a missed opportunity, as these factors could have provided even deeper insights into how different groups of employees construct meaning around CSR.
In the discussion section, the author provides a fairly clear interpretation of their findings while also acknowledging several limitations and proposing direction for future research. First, regarding findings, the author connects their result to existing theory, particularly sense-making and macro CSR. They explain how employees interpret cooperate, social responsibility, and how those interpretations relate to the organizational identification. One strength is that the discussion recognized different motivations behind the CSR, including moral responsibility, business strategy, and public relations goal. However, the discussion focused mostly on supportive perspective and does not explore dissenting or critical voice in much depth. Second, the author openly acknowledged several limitations. The study relies on the convenience and snowball sampling, which may limit how broadly the result can be generalized, and the research design is also cross-sectional and based on interviews, so it captures participants' view at only one moment in time. In addition, the author recognized that interpretive qualitative analysis can involve some researchers subjectively. They also note that the study lacks of deeper contextual detail that might come from single case study. In the end, the author suggests several direction of future research, including longitudinal and infographic approaches, multi-method research designs, and further work examining the relationship between CSR, political activism, and ESG framework. In conclusion, the discussion is well-structured and transparent about its limitations, although it could be engaged more with critical perspective.